Action Army, and the trigger mechanism and the pins, the whole 9 yards, replicated it in CAD. And then I did a spectrum analysis on it, on what it takes to break it.
Hello, everybody. We are back. We have 4 of us here tonight, and our special guest is Jake from Everything Black Powder. He's been on here a couple times, but we realized we'd never actually had him on here without a bunch of other guests, so we decided that'd be a fun thing to do this time, and he agreed to come on short notice. So, that was the main thing. I'm Garrett from 11 Bang Bang. Over here to my right, we have Duke Frazier Productions. Duke, of course, from Duke Frazier Productions. And we have down here below me, Snapper from Snapper's Antique Firearms Unlimited. And, of course, our special guest, Jake. All right, before we get into the conversating here, I'm going to go ahead and get through some of our comments. Lagging Leland wants to know if Walter White is going to show up on tonight's stream. I highly doubt that. I'd be scared if he did. Task Force Tyler is in. Constitutional Carpenter said, evening, gents. AR American said, good evening. Hi, AR. Diane Houston said, howdy. Louisiana Gray said, well, good evening, everyone. Always look forward to Everything Black Powder. That's how I am. Everything Black Powder, I guess. Chris Klein is in. D. Read that, Snapper.
What? The Untrainer? I went to public school.
Ontario?
That's good enough for me.
That looks
We'll just
enough.
call him D.
D.
Gunsmith.
I'm not even going to attempt that one.
Yeah. Doug Dukes is in. Byland and C is in. Soylent Green.
Hey.
U.S. Michigan Prepper. Wow, we got a lot of people in here tonight. Kodak Tackman, Flying Horse. Todd B. Shot Shoe is in. Hardy. Turkey Creek 1823 is in. Garza Vlogs, Michigan Prepper. BR549. West Covina Dodge. Look how bright Duke's room is. Okay, Keith. 429421. Mill Creek Range is in. Hey, Benji.
Hey.
And Oregon Outback. Hey, all right. So if you guys have any questions, and if I didn't see any in there, I'm sorry. We don't have a theme for tonight, really. We're just having a conversation. You guys have any questions for Jake? Shoot them out there. I'm sure somebody will. But let's kick this off with, have you beat Swiss yet, Jake? Have you completely beat Swiss?
Have I beat Swiss entirely? No, but I've outdone Swiss in one regard, and that's the cleanliness, which is probably the toughest.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
some would say that's probably the most important as well.
Fair enough.
You can always add 5 more grains for the most part, unless you're shooting a cartridge.
Indeed.
Well, even still, sometimes you could shoehorn 5 more grains in a cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe those compression dies work wonders, don't they?
Indeed, they do.
Personally, I go with the projectile as my compression die, but
Till it starts spilling over the side of the case.
Well, yeah.
No, the worst thing you do is crush that bullet and then it don't go in the chamber.
Yeah.
There are files for that.
The only time I've ever, I've had to do that too.
Me too.
As far as a cartridge goes, the only time I've ever had any issue with that was Black Powder 38 Special. I was using some powder-coated rounds, and they were semi-wads, and after I had seeded them, they were round nose.
Mm-hmm.
But, they still worked fine.
That's pretty good. I found out, I just thought I was a terrible shot until Caleb started using that compression die. Then that's probably why I like the 5070 so much. I hit better with it because he was loading those with compression dies. And I found out that my 100-yard and 150-yard shots went way up in their percentage when he started using that. I don't know why, but I don't know. It seems to work, I guess.
Hey, if it works, it
more
works.
more consistent burn. That'd kind of make sense. There's no air pockets. Everything's, the right consistency through the entire case instead of some being compressed more than others.
What
just a guess.
what powder are you using? 123F? What kind?
Well, I'm using my 4F, which is basically like a Go X3F. So basically 3F size.
Yeah.
I need to get the correct screens. I know people ask questions about that all the time, and I need to get them, but I'm still working.
Where do you guys find them at, by the way? Because I kind of just make stuff work that I find. Is there anywhere you can, like, a certain object say, hey, this is 100% for 3F, 2F, 1F?
It depends on if you're talking Go X3F or Swiss 3F, because Swiss 3F is finer. It's smaller granules. But no, I haven't found any, and people ask me all the time, what specific site? It's, it pretty much is whatever you have that works.
You know what I actually use, and it's the weirdest thing ever, because it's the only thing I saw that would work, is, a fish tank net for a fish tank? When you take your fish out of the fish tank? I actually use that net. I just pour it in there and bounce the net to get all the powder out of it, and it comes out just a tiny bit smaller than Go X3F. So it works, but I was hoping to get like an actual real screen eventually, but I haven't been able to find anything yet.
What I started using, Garrett, for 50/70, which I've been doing a lot of lately, is 1F.
Yeah.
Use 70 grains of 1F, and it's a lot more accurate than using 70 grains of 3F. You lose, 100 or 200 feet worth of velocity, but it's more accurate, or at least it is in my 50/70.
Well, that always brings up the question. We know what the original 50/70s, or at least the 45/70s, were loaded with a DuPont rifle powder. And I don't know what DuPont rifle powder was, but my guess is it was going about the same speed as your 1F, because if you're hitting consistently where you should. So, like I say,
you have to remember that the way they labeled powder back then in the mid 1800s was generally bigger than stuff we use. Like rifle fine powder, like the Enfield rifle fine powder is like 1F. Now they call it, it's the finer stuff than they were using for the Brown Bess musket that they converted to a cap, but it's big powder.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a question here. Chris Klein said, "This will get a good conversation going here. What size press are you guys using to make your pucks?"
Well, I use a 20-ton.
Go ahead, Garrett.
Well, I was using a 12-ton that wasn't working too good, and I was having to compress it 3 times, and now I'm using a 60-ton and getting along just.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
What about you, Snapper?
Well, I usually use a 40-ton, but I also can use a 60-ton every now and then. And I just make my die smaller and longer. The fatter and shorter, it takes up more pressure than it would be if you made it longer and skinnier, like rounder. You can put more pressure with any given press into that. And you can really press that stuff up pretty good, to the point where it's even hard to break with a hammer.
That's the trouble. Once you get enough pressure, it becomes more work to grind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. But it also weighs more.
Aren't you getting powder that's more dense than the commercial stuff anyway, though?
Yeah, I get weight-wise 5 more grains than commercial. So if I threw like 40 grains of commercial powder and I threw the exact same volume with mine, I get like 45 grains.
Yeah, okay.
So it's pretty good stuff. Quite happy with it.
I wonder if you hit a point of diminishing returns on that, though.
I'm
I
sure.
can't tell you
for
sure, but
theoretically, the denser the powder is, the slower it is.
That could be another reason why my stuff sucks.
It takes more time to deflagrate, I think is the term.
So what you're
Fancy word for
saying
burn.
is there comes a point in a long barrel gun where you could have denser in a longer barrel gun versus a cartridge revolver. You wouldn't maybe want it that dense.
Yeah, and that's the theory with all of it. You know, if you're going to use something in 1F, you want some long-barreled rifle. If you have something short-barreled, well, that's what 3F is for. Stuff like that.
So I learned this now after I pressed the crap out of my powder that I'm using it in the wrong gun.
No, I don't think there's such thing, really.
I mean, when you're getting down to the guys that are trying to shoot sub MOA, you know, I'm just happy if I hit an 8-inch plate at 100 yards, you know.
Me too.
150 makes my day. If I hit that man-sized target at 350, I'm quitting.
Yep.
Not going to mess with it anymore. Actually, I say that, but Duke has a pretty good track record with 45 Colt loaded down to 44 Henry specs. I don't know, Duke, how many did you hit at 300 on that man-sized target? It was 300.
With the Henry ones? With the Henry ones, I don't think we hit anything. I was hitting it with the Black Hills Cowboy.
Yeah. And that brings me to, I wonder if modern replicas are rifled for that speed from the Black Hills, from the Cowboy load ammunition.
I take that back. We did hit it with the Henry loads. I think I hit 3 out of 14. It was the Plowboy loads that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I think we're pushing them too fast. I don't know. Do you know if they changed the rifling in the replicas compared to the originals, dude?
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. It's different way it's rifled and the different kind of rifling, different speeds. I mean, it's all different.
Yeah, I think the new ones have a faster rifling.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it would make sense because they're chambered in a different cartridge now. So.
Well, they're also rifled for smokeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did find that interesting. The Plowboy loads after about 100 yards started the 40. We call them Plowboy loads. The 40 grain 45 Colt loads. After about 100 yards, they move out a little bit, and at 300 yards, they really move out. But yeah, the smokeless loads that are obviously, I believe, moving slower than the black powder loads. They
were moving at right at 800 feet per second. I think the Plowboy loads are probably doing 9.
Oh, I think out of that rifle, they were doing a lot faster than that.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking Colt revolver, but yeah, no, you're right. They were doing a little faster.
Jake would know how fast is a Plowboy or a 40 grain load out of a 7.5-inch revolver.
If you're using 3F Swiss or something comparable with a 250, 255, it should be right at about 1,050 feet per second.
Did you ever
That's what I was
test them in
thinking.
a
That's kind of
rifle, in a full length rifle?
Yeah, about, I think it's 1150 or 12.
That's.
Oh wait, or is it 13? No, I think it's in the 12s.
That's still pretty good. That's moving on for that bullet.
Yeah, but
Yep.
you know, I don't have a 300 yards is long ways. You know, our range only goes to about 250, like if you're corner to corner. But my Marlin 94 Cowboy shoots those black powder rounds with 40 grains excellent at 200 and some odd yards. So, but I don't know what the rate of twist is in that versus a Uberti or something like that. I bet the hardness of the lead has something to do with it. If you're using really soft lead with something moving that fast, I bet it could strip it off. Probably need a little harder lead.
I'm pretty sure everything we were shooting that day was wheel weights.
Yeah, okay.
So that's pretty hard cast.
It's pretty decent hard lead.
But yeah, no, and I think it also has to, like you said, the differences in the rifling and what they're cited for. Whereas the Marlin, it seems to me like it's advertised like it's like Ruger only loads and Marlin, like hot loads, right? Is that the deal? So I don't know if they say that in the Henry where you're supposed to. It's probably rifled for a slightly slower round, if that makes sense. If that even...
Yeah, I don't run any kind of plus P45 stuff through any of my Uberti lever guns. If you want to run any kind of hot ammo through those, I run 40 grains of 3F or something.
Yeah,
you get a lot more punch out of that than you would any kind of Cowboy load with smokeless.
Yeah, I've been looking for one of those Marlin 4570. Was it? It's not the 1895. What's their 4570?
Yeah, it's 95.
Is it the 95? Okay, yeah. Well, I've been looking at one of those, thinking one of those with a 16-inch barrel would be an awesome truck gun I mean, I know you can't get too many rounds in it, but it'd take care of anything in my part of the country. That's for sure.
You bet.
And if you've been watching Plowboy's videos, he's about sold me on them.
Well, if you get one of those, I know where there's some really hot ammunition that somebody wants to get rid of.
I know where there's some really hot ammunition sitting on the shelf over at Ethan's too. Let's go over here and read a few of these comments here. West Covina Dodge said it'd be fun to see a compressed Snider load.
Compressed Snider load?
You're the only one that's got a Snider.
Like compressed black powder?
Yeah. Like
well, hell, all of my Snider loads are that.
What's your standard powder charge in a Snider?
You know, before I got a projectile that actually worked pretty well, I was just using the standard 5.75 mini ball that you'd use for a Enfield rifle musket. And it took some doing to get it to shoot well. Some years ago, I still have it. It's the Nepalese one. And I had a hell of a time getting that thing to shoot well. And what I ended up doing was running like 110 grains to get it to where it would actually hit where I wanted. It shot really high, but at least it would group well. And it wasn't until I started filling the base of the hollow base of the mini ball where I actually got it to shoot halfway decent. And so now what I'm using, and I still was having to use a pretty hefty charge. I was using 80 grains of 3F. And this is always the thing that I like to talk about anytime somebody says this stuff. Like, well, you see, black powder just doesn't have a lot of recoil. It's like, have you ever shot a Snider with 110 grains? Because it has some serious recoil.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know people like to think like, oh, well, your black powder gun, it doesn't have a lot of recoil. Well, yeah, your 40 caliber, squirrel gun with 20 grains, sure, that doesn't have a lot of recoil.
I seriously think it's because most people shoot black powder guns with cowboy loads and have never actually shot real black powder. And it's amazing the amount of people that say, well, I shoot actual smokeless Black Hills load. That's going to be, since it's smokeless, it's more powerful than black.
Yeah, that has to be. That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
Yep, apparently.
I run into that quite a bit.
So the Snider load that I use now is a 60 grain solid base projectile, and I'm using between 50 and 55 grains of 2 or 1F, and it's a lot easier to shoot, and it hits really well, and it hits where I'm aiming. So that's a plus.
There you go.
But you don't need the extra oomph to try and expand the undersize projectile.
You go up to a 60 caliber?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get a mold, or is that just?
Yeah, I did. The last time you guys had me on, I was on with Rob from British Muzzleloaders, and I was asking him about it because I watched his video and I talked to him about it, and I just basically copied the same stuff he did.
That's a hard mold to find, isn't it?
He gave me the number. I called the guy up and I sent him a check, and he mailed it to me, and that was that. So. All it took was a phone call.
I needed a 5.85 for the 58 caliber rimfire.
Yeah,
I had to give $150 for that mold.
Yeah, that one I couldn't find.
And then I was like, man, you got one of those. I think we gave $150 for that single mold without handles, but it was not a. Who was?
That's a Lyman mold, though, right?
I think it was our. I think it was Lyman. It was an old Lyman mold. They didn't make them they haven't made them for a long time, I guess. A few comments over here. Franklin Horse said, Google search geology sizing screens. They stack, connect, and come in sets of sizes that cover all your needs.
I was going to recommend that too, because they have what they call a fee size, and figure out what 3F and 2F is in fee size. And that kind of sets you up.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. Thank you. That's cool.
I think I priced it, though, once, and it was going to be like $70 for a set of screens.
Oh, yeah. They're not cheap. They're not cheap at all.
And so I didn't do it, but I probably should have.
But that way, you've got sizes that are standardized because that stuff's pretty to spec.
Yep. Shots Shula said in Britain, RFG was sieved to fall through the mesh of 20 by 12 squares per square inch in 1867. It was changed to 16 by 20 mesh for RFG2, Smith's Handbook. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that happened around the 1867 for British powder. I've been reading on that a couple of reports that was coming in after the American Civil War that, hey, some of you guys' powder blows our guns up, and some of you guys' powder don't get the ball out the end of the barrel. So they did a few changes over there in right after post-American Civil War years. There was some stuff going on with British powder about that time, it seems like. By Land and Sea said your bullet alloy will make a difference also, and so will your lube, to be quite honest. Chris Klein asks, so would a 20-ton Harbor Freight press work?
Yeah.
I don't see why
It'll
not.
work.
The only reason my 12-ton was having trouble was I spent so much time making so much powder that probably needs hydraulic fluid because you can't tell when it starts getting weaker until it's then you go waste. So I'm like, oh, I just made 10 pounds of this stuff. I got to do it all over again.
Just remember, it's Harbor Freight. That's not a guarantee that the press itself will work, but the idea will work.
Very true. Oh, okay. Todd B said Duke is due for another road trip to 11 Bang Bang Ranch and all the videos that come from those trips.
Yeah, that may be coming here before December. I hope I can do it before December, but all depends on how much leather I get sold here.
And there might be another going the other direction before fall. Who knows? Actually, it's pretty well set. Hopefully that it works out that way.
Yeah, I don't know what all will get done, but we'll get something done.
Pronounce that, Snapper.
Man, I still have to lean way forward. Gusby?
Giuseppe.
Yes,
Giuseppe.
Giuseppe.
Like I said, I went to
Giuseppe.
public school.
The reason I know that is there's an Italian restaurant, Colorado Springs, called that. They used to have their advertisement on the TV all the time. And that was in an old railroad car, and it was Giuseppe's.
Yeah. He wants to know, does anyone have a good load recommendation for an original 1816 French flintlock? Sorry. Anybody out there?
I mean, it depends on what size and all that fun stuff.
Well, throw some powder in it and a ball and see what works.
There you go.
My guess is Shot Shul will know, but if Ethan's out there, I guarantee you he can tell you too. It's generally, I can't remember. I don't know the 1816 that well. I have a book back there, but I didn't have time to look it up. But generally, figure yourselves around 100 grains. Like a brown best is 110 grains at that point, I think. And if it's still the 69 caliber, I believe they use a 64 caliber round ball. Don't quote me on that. This is just the stuff Ethan tells me while we're driving down the road that I kind of half hear. And John B said you'll strip lead in the rifling if you try to push soft lead too fast. Sometimes a bit slower is better in black powder arms. Yes.
It's why progressive rifling, gain twist rifling.
Gain twist. Yeah.
I love that gain twist. That stuff works great to me. I think that is like the best real gain twist. It just works so good.
That brings up something that Jake and I were talking about a few months ago. We were discussing the steel used in, you remember that conversation? Steel used in Springfield arms in the Civil War.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, well, Colt used real steel because it says steel on every special contract rifle. It says steel right on the barrel. And then I finally got into the Erskine Allen book where he was writing back and forth to Root, and he was like, you really think you should still be stamping steel on the barrel when we all know that you're using Pittsburgh iron? It was like, evidently they all started kind of with a high grade of steel, and then there was some kind of big strike and protest for American iron workers because everybody was going over and getting Bessemer steel from England that was really good stuff. And so to kind of appease the American iron workers, they kind of just quietly started buying American iron again. Everybody but Colt revolvers. Colt revolvers never went back to iron. They couldn't. If they did, nasty things would have happened in that 1860 Army. But yeah, that's what I told Jake. I said, it says steel on every one of those guns. Nope, I found the letter. It's not steel.
False advertising.
Somebody was trying to convince you something about, I can't remember what started that.
Well, I guess Colt always lived that motto of if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So
there you go.
Somebody was having an argument with you about I can't remember, something about modern steel or blowing up a gun or something.
Yeah, it was the same old thing about how, you know, firearms back then just exploded all the time. They were completely unsafe and all that kind of stuff. It was something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Crisco, I'm guessing. Good old Crisco, was that him?
No, this was somebody else.
The Crisco Kid.
I haven't heard from the Crisco Kid in a while. I'm a little bummed.
Yeah.
I think I linked him to Duke's video.
I truly believe a lot of that.
Okay, raise your hand. How many of us here started by actually trying to use Crisco in a cap and ball revolver?
Come on, dude. Don't leave us down.
I've never put Crisco on a gun.
Well, you're doing it wrong.
I know. I did a short on it.
So, just for an explanation, guys, we have somebody that on. Well, we don't have. Jake has. He hasn't ever come over to my channel yet. I wish he would, because man, he drives comments. He drives traction in the comments like crazy. But he gets really upset if anybody uses anything but Crisco. And I've tried to explain to him, most people start with Crisco and then move on to better things. Like regular old rendered hog lard is better than Crisco as far as staying in the gun. But yeah, it's been quite entertaining in those comment sections over there.
No, I've always used beeswax and lamb's tallow, and I finally got a mixture that doesn't melt in 100-degree temperatures, and it's like 90% beeswax and 10% lamb's tallow.
All right.
It's kind of what my summer mix is here.
I went from Crisco just because, well, when you first buy your first cap and ball revolver, especially like me, I was a young kid. It's like, and we didn't have internet then, and we had no way of just ordering anything. So you go to the store and there's Crisco. And so we started with Crisco and then moved to regular lard because it wasn't, melting out of the gun so fast. Then I went to Wonder Wads, and then went to lamb's tallow and beeswax. Then I read that wonderful little quote from Colt that said, "Don't use anything." I just don't use anything anymore. And I mean, I know, Duke, you've had some trouble with it with chain fires, but I haven't. I wonder if you
and that chain fire is one of those. It could have been the front and it could have been the back. I don't know. I just know the cap did go off.
Yeah.
On that one. So I don't know if it came from the front or if the fire set the cap off from the back.
I think I got the Crisco information, now that I'm thinking about it. When I bought my first 1860 Army when I was like 16 or 17, I remember I looked at the instructions from Paeta that came in the box, and I think it said something about Crisco in there.
Really?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking that was the case, because I thought I read it from somewhere, but either way. But yeah, I started using Crisco. I had my can of Pyrodex and my jug of Crisco, and
Yep,
that's how we did it.
Pyrodex. Now I will admit I started using that stuff too. I about said the wrong word there. I started using that stuff when I got started. I went to black and I never went back.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Crisco until you start swearing up and down and chewing other people out for using anything that's not Crisco, I guess.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, like you said with the Crisco thing, how many people started with that? You know, well, I started with Pyrodex too,
Yep.
I think once I got to the way Blackie does his, the way he lubes his gun, instead of adding it to the chambers, just swab the barrel a couple of times every several cylinders. to me, that has been by far the best way, personally, for me to shoot pistols. Anyways, just swap the barrel a couple of times before you shoot, and every 3 or 4 cylinders, just swap the barrel again, and you're good. Just keep the barrel wet.
The great thing about Wonder Wads is them things scour that barrel every time you shoot. And so whenever I shoot with Wonder Wads, that's why I love to shoot with them. 3 patches is all it takes for me to have that barrel completely cleaned. Run a little hot water through it, run some ballistol mix through it, run 3 patches, I'm done. The 3rd patch always comes out clean. I use not Crisco. If I use the beeswax, the grease, or anything else, I'm sitting there cleaning it for 20 minutes.
And the outside of the gun's just as nasty as the inside of the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where the Dawn dish soap has to come in to get that crap back off of there.
Yeah.
So you still lubing on everything, Jake? You're just using lamp style and beeswax on your cap and balls anyway?
Yeah, but I've kind of fallen into a habit of not doing it every cylinder. For a long time, I would use it and I'd smear that stuff in there and I would go for it like that, and that would work fine. But I've gotten into the habit a little bit more recently of doing it every other cylinder, or if I do it at all. But one thing I could say for sure in my experience is between using nothing and using some kind of lube, even wads help a little bit. You could shoot longer without having to disassemble it and clean it up,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the powder. Like I said, some people have said since our powder was less dense, we weren't getting as much fouling, which might have been true. But I mean, for the last 8 major videos, and when I make a history of the handguns of Colt, you won't see all of them, but I'll put 200 rounds to the gun. I haven't put lube on those Colts in 4 videos, not ever since probably the 1855. Great. And the thing is, Colt, especially on the originals, Colt says it right there in the lid of the box. Use no wads, use no grease. Now, I will say this about Blackie's, and this is going to get me in trouble with some people out there. Blackie's gun butter is the only stuff I know that makes a Remington shoot like a Colt with nothing in it. Yeah, I mean, that's just being honest. And maybe it's just the Remingtons I have. I don't know. I've had 4 of them in my lifetime from all different makers. None of them would run dry at all whatsoever. And I do oil the pin, but
Neither does the originals. They don't run more than a cylinder or 2. Yeah. I've never ran a Remington original or replica that you could actually shoot a lot without it fouling up really fast.
Now, what's funny is it's not just Remingtons, though, because that Colt Root revolver will do the exact same thing.
I bet. It's that top strap. I guarantee you that's what it is.
That's why the 73 single action has a bushing between the cylinder and the base pin. You have 2 points of rotation.
And that's funny because Schofield will also bind up faster than a Colt because it does not have the bushing. Yeah, I think that
bushing was brilliant. Brilliant idea.
Thing. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying the Schofield will bind up super fast, but it will eventually.
A matter of fact, that when I shot the new single action I had, I ran a little over 100 rounds through that gun, and I never added grease. I never added anything except for the little bit I put on those bushings when I went to go shoot the gun. Over 100, you could still rotate that gun with your pinky, the cylinder on it. It was nothing.
I noticed that in that video. You mentioned it. It's like this thing's still turning and still going just fine.
And you can see how dirty it is. I never wiped it down. I just kept shooting it and shooting it and shooting it. And man, I'm like, it felt like what a normal gun would feel if it was completely cleaned. It was astonishing.
Well, my 73 single action, Garrett and me and Caleb and all them, when I shot the first time they came up here in August of 2021. They came back in May of 2022, and we shot that gun again. And I did not clean it after the first time. With black powder, we shot it again with black powder, and it was still running just fine.
Fine, yeah. I really think that is
I could have swore I was the one that put it in your holster when we left, and when we came back, 7-8 months later, I pulled it out of the same holster. I said, "Dude, how comes this thing all white inside?" He's like, "Oh, it'll shoot." We loaded her up and put another 100 rounds through her. It doesn't even drag.
And then I took it back to work and I cleaned it at work because I was using it to shoot blanks with out there. So I cleaned it at work, and you know what? There wasn't a speck of rust anywhere come out of that.
I bet. You know, I wonder how many people in the past act like Duke. When it came to that, like how many people just shot him, stuck him in there, or how many people that actually cleaned him? I'm really curious on that.
Everybody.
Everybody.
I mean, there was people. I mean, have you looked at some of the like civilian guns from that time period? Look at Seth Kinman's rifle. Have you ever seen Seth Kinman's rifle? The bear hunting mountain man. He has a rifle that's, I think it was in 1803. It was a gun that was used in the War of 1812, and he used it up into the 1870s. Single shot muzzleloader. He had it converted to cap lock. The thing was held together with rawhide and basically was 2 splinters of wood on a barrel.
You know, I think I know what you're talking about. Did it go through like Rock Island or Murphy's or something, and they made a video? Yeah.
And the thing is, I think people shot him all the time, but they just shot him till it got hard to load. Then you clean it,
and then they cleaned it.
If you're shooting all the time, that's going to happen more often than nobody's throwing it in the closet and leaving it for 4 years. You know,
right? Yeah. I am really shocked because I always was told when I was, especially beginning, is the black powder rusts the gun so fast. I mean, it's gonna, and I never experienced that with real black powder. Pyrex, yes, but real black powder,
you know, where
I never really get any rust from it ever. It happens, but rare.
We had a lot of rain this year. Like we never have this much rain. We didn't have any rain all spring, and then we had 10 inches in 2 weeks. And I did notice that some of the guns that I had not cleaned up for a year or two, they did start getting surface rust on them. So I guess I know what it looks like to live in the Southeast a little more now, but it's like, unless that happens, rust, it's not a terrible issue here.
Yeah, you have to have pretty high humidity. If you are in high humidity, yeah, you got to clean them pretty dang regular.
Yep. Let's get through some of these comments. D said, so would you say the Nepalese made Sniders should be avoided, or are they okay Sniders? I think that's for you, Jake.
No, it was a fine rifle. The British made ones are definitely nicer quality, better fit, better made. But the Nepalese one I had worked fine. I split the stock running one of those 110 grain Snider loads. It still functions. I just need to pin it and glue it back together.
Yeah. So Shot Shield said that the switch to RFG2 was for better performance in the Snider. I have a question. So I'm taking this as rifle grade or F grade 2, right? And maybe I'm wrong, or not grade, but is the G for grade, or is the G actually for graphite? Because I know today a lot of times you get graphite in things that are FG coated. Isn't that the deal, Jake?
You know, this is controversial because a lot of outfits will say, like Swiss claims they do not graphite coat their powder. The G is supposed to stand for glazed, which is something that's done with sporting powder for firearms. But there's a lot of people that will say, no, it means graphite coated. Now, the thing about Swiss, though, that is I still find interesting is even though I can follow those directions exactly, my powder does not even come out looking that silvery shiny like Swiss does.
Mine doesn't either.
My powder always comes out looking like GoX. No matter how long I polish it or at what speed, it always comes out looking just like GoX. It never looks like Swiss.
I actually have this can of GoX right here, but it's not GoX anymore. But I never noticed there's a little peel here. Has anybody ever noticed that before? It says Canada, peel here.
Oh, that's a warning.
Whoa. We're not in Canada. It's like taking the mattress sticker off your mattress.
Well,
but I always thought the G, because the G marking.
Go ahead.
There's an entire book back there.
There's the G marking. You see that way back. I always thought that was to designate granulation, because the F's designate what size, and then G was just granulation.
See, I thought though that the size is the granulation.
Yeah.
So FG would be fine granulation. 2FG would be finer granulation, and then 3FG was considered super fine granulation. Yeah, that word.
Sorry, I see why they did
granulation
this for Canada, though.
Graduation.
If
Yeah,
you're gonna have this
graduation.
Graduation. It
You're
stands
gonna
for
have this in
great. It's great
Canada.
powder.
I don't know
Uh
if you can make that out. They have to peel that off in Canada first thing, not for resale in the USA.
Imagine that.
oh. Interesting.
And it's a bunch of languages. I thought maybe they were going to have their secret recipe in there. Nope. Just
Only the
learning.
Canadians are allowed to know the secret recipe.
I thought so too. That's what it says. It literally says right there. I don't know if you can make it out.
I never noticed that was there at all.
Well, it says for Canada peel here. I never noticed that before. Okay, so Landon Simpson, I could get through some of these. We'll get caught up here. Landon Simpson said, Snapper, you ought to joke to Garrett about when he will finally make history of the... Oh, that's a ways
trust
away.
me. It's a ways away. I've been hoping he would. I wish he would hurry.
I got trapdoors on the mind, and one of the reasons I'm doing that is the next episode is the conversions. And I was looking at, there's 3 major types of conversions. And then I got in the book and, gonna have to buy a lot of guns because there's 3 major types of conversions for the Army pistols, 2 major, and the Navy pistols. There's 5 other types of conversions for the pocket pistols. And
there's a lot for them.
that's not even counting the Thur conversion. It's pretty crazy. I did not know about all the pocket pistol conversions, and I got to get a bunch more guns before I do move on.
But you got to start saving money so that you can end that Colt gun with the biggest Colt revolver ever made.
The Gatling gun.
The 45 standard of me Gatling.
That blows away the 500 Smith & Wesson revolver. Colt has officially made the biggest revolver.
And there's a guy that does produce those. It's about $50K last I looked on his website in a 4-year wait period.
For $50,000, you know how much other stuff that I would need? Like, you could buy every pistol original in the handguns of Colt except for the Walker and Patterson, basically for $50,000.
Yeah,
but it's a Gatling.
Yeah.
But one at a time for the most. You couldn't get all of them. Well, you could get most of them with 50.
I mean, I think you could get all of them. I mean, you could spend it. You can get an 1860 Army for $1,500.
You could
look at it.
And then you could find one in 51 Navy the same.
And you can't get a 61 Navy for that. You could probably get a 61 Navy for $3,000.
I've seen them a little bit, but yeah, they're usually around that price.
I think you could buy outside of the Patterson and the Walker, and the first model. Well, you probably could.
The Dragoons are expensive. The Dragoons are usually running between $7,000 to $15,000, depending on what model and whatnot, and condition.
You still get pretty close. If you bought
I think you could probably get pretty close. Yeah.
Models. Yeah.
I don't know. All of that versus one Gatling gun.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue with a Gatling gun.
Well, you get one gun that you shoot once every 5 years that maybe works. Right, dude?
5 years?
Okay.
He's out there every morning at Reveille just popping that bad boy off.
I've got guns that I bought to film 3 years ago. I got to Duke's been after us to do the camel gun video for 1.5 years now. We finally got it out.
Yeah, and he didn't even do the best part.
I don't know.
He's supposed to stand up there like a Tuscan Raider and go,
Slick Six Guns is in. He said hello.
Hey.
Hi, Slick.
Howdy.
The Lone Dragoon said, hey, Duke, I tagged you an Instagram post I made about a book and some stories from it.
I'll have to look at that. Hey, Slick, I got your stuff. I just got to put dye on the edge and we're done. It's all right here.
And Shotstill said, sorry, Flintlocks are too early for me. By land to sea. Garrett, did you finally get the info you were looking for on the Colt contract rifles? Yes and no. Because right now for the Trapdoor series, I don't need a ton of information. Altogether, I've got probably, 10 books on contract rifles in the Civil War. And out of those 10 books, I think I have 15 pages on that particular gun, which is ridiculous because it's like the third most populated gun of the North. at 180 to 200,000 of them made. So yeah, it's ridiculous. I can find the information. If you know of any, let me know. I would appreciate it. Hey, we got a super chat. I ain't never seen that before. Thank
Whoa.
you.
Hey,
Slick 60. I don't know who that's on because I'm looking at everybody's. Somebody made $1.99. Appreciate it. Slick Six Gun said you inspired me for my next video. Oh, that'd be interesting. Okay, Hardy said, I think we're going back to talking about the iron. That's why I'm trying to catch up here. He said, to be fair, steamboat boilers exploded all the time. People still rode on them. Guess they value human life a bit less. Steamboat boilers are a whole different animal.
I didn't see very many original guns that blew up with black powder. I think a lot of the guns that have blown up was because of smokeless.
What about that 1860 Army you have?
That's different. Shh, we're keeping secrets.
and if you look in the
that was 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, the Colt Bible, it says 10% of muskets failed, which was what the Army allowance was.
Loud.
Yeah, because you remember,
wrong,
if you think about it, that barrel's welded down there. They could blow down on the bottom.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't think it is as prevalent as a lot of people say it was. Because most of the people like that come out and say, "Oh, because they're always blowing up because of all these blown up guns that we have today."
I think you're onto something. A lot of blown up guns today are, and it's not necessarily from that. Like I have a shotgun that's made in 1901. It's hanging on the front of the table in all the Colt videos. I don't really address it. It's a falling block. It looks just like a Sharps, but it's a 12 gauge. I can't remember who made it, but it was made in a time when it was not graded for smokeless powder, and smokeless powder was on the market. And it didn't blow up per se, but the entire frame, the receiver frame, has been cracked down both sides, welded up, and then cracked again. And I think it's just because a lot of guns weren't prepared for that.
That 1860, that was 100% a squib load.
Yeah, well, that would cause
it. It didn't burst the barrel. It burst the cylinder, but it cracked the barrel, about an inch.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
Tallow and beeswax only, Shot Shield said, for the 1861 Ordnance Department manual, Crisco melts out of the chambers if it's too hot after a few rounds. Yeah. It starts, there's another wax. It's not paraffin. It's a berry that starts with a P. What am I thinking? Duke, you probably know what it is. They still make it like real expensive candle wax.
Well, yeah, it's a petroleum-based wax.
Well, no, it's actually made from a berry. I just saw it the other day. They started using it in 72, I think. At least that's where I read they were using it. It's not paraffin. It's I'll have to look at it. But I did find a reference to where they went, and when they got to cartridges, they went to this particular, I believe it was a berry or something that was wax. And you can still buy it today, but I can't remember what it was.
See, what the heck was the wax is it they had? Because you had it's not a paraffin, but it's another petroleum-based one. Starts with an N. Hey, we lost a host.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, yeah. Trying to think of what the heck that is. But anyway, it's kind of like what kerosene is, because kerosene is actually a wax, which is why you replace it with lamp oil.
I've never found another copy of this book. And we bought this book for $150. No, it was $100, $115, I think, with tax. And it was only that thick. I was pretty disappointed in this book. But it has all kinds of. I shouldn't be disappointed because it's got powder mixes and stuff from the 1870s. It talks about DuPont. I haven't read it that well, but it does have the name of the stuff in here. If I can find it. Different primer. Go ahead, Snapper.
While you're looking at that, do you guys have any suggestions on books to read for black powder, like manufacturing of different countries, other than that book? Because you kind of said it's in that book, but do you guys, Duke or Jake?
Chemistry of explosives.
Have you read Brett Gibbons' book on powder? Have you seen that one? I think it's called like fire and powder. Brett from Paper Cartridges. Have you guys ever watch him? He wrote.
I've seen his videos.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's got a lot
okay.
of good information in there, and it's a pretty small book.
I think it'd be kind of fun to buy a book like that and test out the different, countries and time periods, powder.
Well,
Be kinda
Brett
fun.
focuses solely on British-made powder in the mid 1800s.
So the best
And,
powder in the world at the time.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I'm gonna find it here because I know I said it. Bayberry tallow is what the United
Bayberry.
States military was using in the 45s and 50s, 70s.
Okay.
That's kind of cool. I still don't know what that is other than a wax, but
Well,
never heard of it, I don't think.
He's talking. This is with the copper cased ammunition, so maybe it's not good stuff. He said, the Bloomfield gilding metal disc by die stretching folding process. Primer cup was kept in place by 2 crimps. Blah blah blah. Cup was held in place by 2 crimps. Blah blah blah. Yes, and those particular primers did have bad head separation. The standard bullet was a 3-groove, round nose, 405 grain lead bullet, which was swaged from a 0.30 inch lead rod with a cone-shaped hole in the base and was lubricated with either bayberry tallow or Japan wax. And Japan wax, I found out, is just a byproduct of shellac, I believe. So yeah, I don't know. We started talking about that, and that was something I thought I should read again. I needed to find that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Kodak Tackman said high temp coconut oil and beeswax. BR549 said Crisco isn't good for food or firearms.
Tell that to the Crisco kid.
Crisco is great for making pies.
Lagging Leland said nice beard, Garrett. Why, thank you. I didn't have time to prep it tonight with the oil and the brush like I never do. Hardy said people back then didn't really have range days either, so they didn't have to worry about fouling being soft if they only fire 1 round every 6 months. Clean it when you get back to camp. I believe the military, correct me if I'm wrong, Duke, the military standard for military, which is different than civilians, was 20 shots then cleaning. You should try to clean the bore between 20 shots, right?
I don't know on that one.
I've read it recently in one of these books. I'm pretty sure it was 20. They suggested 20 shots and then clean, but I don't know.
If they were anything like the military today, if you looked at it, that means it needs to be cleaned.
Yeah. Well, military back then was not spending any extra money on oil and patches.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or ammunition.
Or
ammunition.
Franklin Horse said, tell everything black powder that they sell refillable bingo stampers online that would be perfect for using to wet his patches with the Dawn dishwater liquid mix.
Bingo
stampers?
Oh, like when they play bingo, like old previously, like
I see.
That would kind of be a good idea, actually.
Task Force Tyler said he does not know who Lagging Leland is.
I'm sure.
Franklin Horse said that's good to carry in Possible's bag. I think he's talking about that. Oh, okay. For the first comment, Lagging Leland said, can we all agree that Guns of the West is Walter White?
Go.
Pretty much. We'll have to text him that. Oh, man. Well, that's okay because Duke is Mick Foley.
Who the hell is Mick Foley?
Mankind.
He's a wrestler. A wrestler.
Yep.
You do look a lot like him, actually, now that you said that.
When his beard is longer, it's uncanny.
Everybody keeps telling me I look alike on a lot of guys. At work, they call me California Joe Milner because they say I look just like him, especially when the beard's long and scraggly. I've been told I look like Ashton White, who was the peace commissioner in '68 at Fort Laramie. I just got told that I could play Colonel Richard Irving Dodge. So, yeah, I get told I look like a lot of people.
Well, I got to say, Jake, do you ever get the Tom Selleck comparisons?
No, you know what I get all the time? Ron Swanson. All the time.
Oh, I was gonna say you had the Tom Selleck thing going on. Shot Shield said, "Why not just dip the bullets on your paper cartridges? You don't need to mess with the barrel or dumping goop over the chambers." Yeah, that's what the military did after they started in the Civil War. They started with nothing in the Colt revolvers, and then they dipped them in wax. But mostly because I don't take the time a lot of times to make paper cartridges like I should. It's like, I want to go to the range. I got my powder flask. Now, if I'm making a big video, yeah, sure. Because then it saves a lot of time. But most of the time, it's like I'm not prepared.
Yeah, I'm not big on paper cartridges either.
Hey, can you guys
They're
even make a 31? I cannot even make a 31 caliber paper cartridge. I can't do it. I do not have the dexterity. Yeah, I'm like, this is too small.
Yep. By Landon C said ultrasonic's pretty good decent for a really dirty pistol.
Mm.
You
My ultrasonic just took a crap on me. I put it in there, hit it, and it's like 1/10 the power, and it won't do anything else.
Go ahead.
Yeah. If you're going to play with originals, you got to have one, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're about down here through these. Let me run through these. If there's a question, guys, I'll shout it out. Otherwise, I'm going to read kind of through them. Let's see. AR American said he's about to try Blackie's gun butter. Just loaded up a bunch of 45 Colt with it.
You'll love it, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Shot Shield said rifle, fine grain. All right. By land and sea, speaking of humidity, it just started raining here in Vegas. Guys, I'm just kind of looking for... say it again, Duke. You went to school.
Giuseppe.
Wants to know what you're making.
I'm working on some spur straps. I'm transferring the pattern for the tooling, so I have a right and a left. Otherwise, I just flip over the pattern. But when I get it done here, I'll show you kind of what I was working on.
By the way, it raining in Vegas, it missed me by like just inches. It felt like down the street, it's raining cats and dogs and floods. And here,
so it's like where not Kirk Douglas. Help me out, boys. Tombstone. Well, I can't think.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is standing in the street after was it after Tom Selleck? Or no, it wasn't Tom Selleck. Was it whoever got shot?
His brother got shot. Yeah.
It's raining right on top of him and like 5 feet down the street.
Feet away.
Riot, kicking up dust.
Yeah. That is Las Vegas in a nutshell. And anywhere I move, it stops raining there the entire time I live there. But the second I move, that's the spot that always gets the rain.
A thinking Bill said corrosive primers with black versus non-corrosive. The difference is dramatic. I don't think I've ever tried corrosive primers. They're not very common around me.
You know, I never thought of that because all the powder back in the day would have been corrosive, the primers, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if a lot of that corrosion would have came from more of the primer instead of the powder.
Well, mercury fulminate is part of the salt family.
Yeah. Huh. I never thought about that.
Chris Breen said, if you think 110 grains in a Snider is rough, my mate fire a knock volley gun with over 200 grains. I hope that's not 200 grains per barrel. Maybe he's talking about that. That would be a...
Wow. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that double knock volley gun that has 14 barrels that Ian had on Forgotten Weapons that one time?
Mm-hmm.
I saw
Side by side knock volley gun with 2 clusters.
Mm-hmm.
I've also
that's what you call a rip roaring good team.
Yeah, I've also heard that's a good way to get double loads because you never know if all of them went off and then you start loading again. Let's see. 30,
but that's what I was working on right there.
Very nice. Okay, a few questions here. You said, what does a 49 pocket usually run? Original or replica?
Replicas are, if we're going to talk original, they're usually anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500 for a shootable one. Like if you want a really nice one, you're going to be in the $3,000 to $4,000 range. And if you want one that's engraved and really, really nice in a case, then you're going to be upwards of 10.
Snapper, I'm glad you knew me.
Why?
For your very nice shootable 49 pocket model.
Oh,
What'd you give
yeah,
him?
I know.
You gave 400 for it, 500, something like
It was
that.
500. It was 500. Yeah.
And what's sad is if Caleb hadn't been around, it would have been 4.
I know. I'm
We
still mad at him for that.
and I told Snapper about this revolver, which has made its way around the internet at this point. A lot of other channels have had it. I'm like, dude, great auction, original. Nobody's here. This is not an online auction. You're going to get some good Colt stuff here for a good deal. And so he's bidding online on the phone, and he hits 400, and I'm like, he's going to get this. And all of a sudden, Caleb's sitting beside me, and he said something to me. I wasn't paying attention. I was talking on the phone. What he said was, we could buy that. And I'm like, you Snapper, you got it. And then the next thing
And I was like, so close. It was like,
I'm not bidding.
Yeah.
He's bidding on the phone with the auction broker. And he's like, and I'm like, I look over at Caleb's. Whoop,
Caleb's.
if you watch, I actually have it on video on YouTube in Gun Auction Action. I don't remember which one it was, but I'm like, Caleb, stop.
Yeah, it was like 400 going once, 400 going twice, and then it says, all right, now 450. And I was like, what? Oh, and then you look over and it's Caleb. I was like, yeah, Caleb.
It's on the video. That was the same auction where I turned down a 6-shot 49 pocket model for $500. I
didn't know that was a
I got my
there.
katana in.
Yeah, your fake katana.
Now, I'm telling you guys, though, if you really want amazing deals, you need to find auctions that are person, not online. Like you could bid on the phone, but not online bidding. And in small towns, my God, you can get good deals.
Jay Wheeler's in. He said, 331 said, what's up, y'all? Good to see Jake on tonight as well.
Howdy, Joe.
And Landon Simpson want to know, Duke, do you use linen thread for your holsters?
No, I use nylon so that it doesn't, you don't have to worry about it ever rotting out. So I know it's not historically accurate, but if somebody gets close enough to see that you've got nylon thread on your holster when it's on your belt, they're too damn close.
Jay Wheeler, 331, said that 110 grain load looked like it thumped, Jake.
Yeah, it did.
Let's see. Hardy said... Yeah, okay, he said, about through these. Fair enough. I was halfway trying to be funny. I imagine Smokeless hits the shelves. There were a lot of people who went to the store and asked for a can of gunpowder and blew their gun up. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my theory as well.
And a lot of the stuff that I've read, a lot of people thought, hey, it's probably going to be fine to use it anyways. Just they're only saying it. I mean, that's kind of the way we are today still. And I truly, deeply believe that the majority of blown up antique guns was from smokeless powder. Now, yes, some did blow up back in the day, but I mean, look, Elmer Keith stuff like an insane amount of smokeless powder in single action armies, and he blew up a couple. I mean, people just did that back then. They didn't care. These guns were worthless.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. 2 people that would never be allowed on YouTube today, Elmer Keith and John Browning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they would be run off YouTube by the safety Nazis.
Man, could you? I know. Could you imagine the comment section of a Elmer Keith video? If he ever could make an actual video of him being Elmer Keith and back then, my God.
Gina
see,
Wood said,
Elmer Keith does it, and it's cool. When I do it, I'm a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. Everybody knows better. Gina Wood said, wow, 70 people, Duke, keep it going. Actually, between all the channels tonight, guys, we've been running between 80 and 100. So
Nice.
That's pretty insane. But it's because of this guy down here in the corner. He tends to bring a big crowd with him.
Yeah.
I'm glad it works out.
Okay, paraffin wax.
How is paraffin? You guys use paraffin?
Yeah, have. Actually,
I've never tried it yet.
To be quite honest, gone a long time on toilet bowl gaskets.
I've used it a lot to lubricate thread.
Don't necessarily use it
beeswax
anymore, but toilet bowl gaskets used to work pretty well. I don't know if they've changed something recently, but the last time I tried to use it, I got this fouling that was like, when I cleaned the gun afterwards, after about 50, it was one of the 50-70 guns, and I've used it for different stuff. Usually use lamp tiles beeswax. Ran out of lamp tiles beeswax, went back to this. And
pulled his toilet out of the ground, stole the wax out of it.
No, these black ropes came out of the rifling.
What?
I've never.
They
seen
put
that
thread
before.
in there. They put thread in that bowl seal to give it a little extra strength.
It must have been a new one because it never was in the old ones. But it's like these black strings came out, and I was like,
Yeah, they've got fibers in them. Yeah.
yeah. But
I would have figured you would have noticed that though. Like if you were melting it or like smearing it on, you'd have figured you'd have noticed that though.
I mean, they could be pulled apart, but it came out in these long strings, and that was something I'd never noticed before with toilet seat gasket.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Yeah, when I had to put one, or when I was looking at putting one in my house back in Colorado, I noticed that they all have some sort of fiberglass thread.
Huh.
Okay. Oh, here's a good point here. By Land and Sea said Navy Infantry Manual of 1884 states clean the rifle every night. Pistols and bayonets are to be cleaned prior to returning to the ship. Well, there's no more humid environment.
Yeah, that is true.
Stephen M. Mann said, Duke, you have too many teeth. Gina Wood said, Duke looks like Grizzly Adams. We're talking about Duke now. Oh, no, I get what he's saying because I said he looked like Mick Foley. Mick Foley doesn't have any teeth anymore. Duke's got too many teeth.
I'm sitting there like, what the
heck? Todd B said, definitely look like Mick Foley. I think people are agreeing now what they see it.
Yeah, he definitely does. He definitely does.
Okay, guys, I'm going to pull this up. Let me see. Any more questions here? Plowboy's Ghost is in.
Hey, Plowboy.
Hey, Plowboy.
Do any of you have any 67 Navy carbines? I don't.
Nope.
Yeah, By Land and Sea was talking to D. He said 5070 was used all the way into the 1880s, and it was in the Navy Marines. Navy Marines had a whole different deal going on. Go check out By Land and Sea, guys. They got some pretty cool stuff. Used rolling blocks. They had their own trap doors. And they used it for a long time in 5070, a lot longer than everybody else. AR American said he can't believe the hate Jake got for using 777. Soylent Green said, is he Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, or Mankind? I'm going to say Mick Foley. But go ahead, Snapper. You got anything to talk about? Go ahead. I'm going to find a picture of this right quick just so I can show.
Yeah, I definitely have to say he looks like Mick Foley. I would have to 100% agree. He looks more like Mick Foley. And, I mean, yeah, you did get a lot of hate for that 777. I mean, you were there for a little while known as the Pirate X King. Or the 777 King. King of the 777.
You know, I make 100 videos on black powder stuff. I make one video on 777, and all of a sudden I'm the 777 guy, you know?
Yep, indeed. That's how it works. That is how it works. So, would you like to tell the world your newest toy, or are you going to wait to put a video out on it?
No. I got a 1873 Winchester in 4440, and needs a little bit of work. I ordered an extractor. I actually called that Mark guy from the Cinnabar. You guys ever watch the Cinnabar?
Yeah.
I called and talked to him today about it, and he pointed me because I thought I was going to have to make one. I called him and thought maybe he had parts for him, but he got me hooked up with somebody that has an extractor for it. It's got a broken extractor, so I ordered up one of those. And I've not done any black powder 4440, so we're going to be doing that.
It's a lot of fun.
Are you ready, Duke?
Uh-oh.
Boom.
My hair ain't curly enough for that.
It is when it gets longer. I'm sorry. Look just like it one more time.
I'm not going to lie, Duke. You could definitely be a body double.
I'm probably too fat for that, too.
Well, he wasn't never known for being real thin, so.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch wrestling, and he was one of my favorite, though. He was a pretty cool guy. Dude took a punishing, though. Man, does that guy, like, the wrestling matches of, like, throwing through tacks and, like, through glass. I mean, it's like, jeez. That guy must not have any feeling in his skin.
He was doing barbed wire baseball bats before Lucille was cool. So, anyway.
Say you're a 90s kid without saying you're a 90s kid. McFarley!
I didn't start watching wrestling until it was in the early 2000s. Yeah,
I was in the late 90s.
because my mom was always afraid that I'd try to pull stupid stunt on my sister or something like that.
I think about Undertaker every time I see Jake do a video with Roland. That was his thing, wasn't it, for a while? Your background music, Jake, in your shorts.
Which one?
Roller.
Oh, that one. Okay.
For a while.
I get so many complaints about the music that I use on my shorts. It's just like, the only one, the one I got the least amount of complaints is anytime I use a Hank Jr. song. Everybody loves Hank Jr.
Oh, everybody loves Hank Jr.
When you used "If the South Would Have Won," I thought you were going to get all kinds of hate, but I was like,
well, yeah. I got a few people that were like, they didn't understand,
Hey, just start singing your own song on the shorts, and then they won't complain about the others.
All right, well, there you go. Yeah.
There we go. Diane Houston said Duke is ready to rumble.
Jesus.
Oh, man. All right, guys, we're going an hour and 11 minutes. Let's run this to an hour and a half. So we got about 20 more minutes to go here, guys.
If Duke ever does come to Las Vegas, if he ever comes to one of the shows, guys, we need to dress him up without letting him know this. Put him out on the strip and have him sign pictures. Make some extra money on the side. Yeah. We won't let him know what happened till it happens.
Yep. AR American said he watched WWF in the 80s. All right.
Ooh, that was before my time.
You more of an American dream or a macho man?
Macho man.
Guns and Water want to know 11 Bang Bang any wheel lock updates I have missed. No. We have been so busy. Ethan and I have been working between 14 and 18-hour days. I know it's crazy sounding, but we have not had any time to make any shorts. We have not had time to do anything.
You called me at what, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning last night?
Well, it was 4 o'clock in the morning here, and I hadn't got home yet. So
they don't even have time to put on their own shorts.
We just don't take them off. That solves that issue, Duke. By Land and Sea said, might be fun doing a big 50-70 shoot with all the various rifles. Need someone to get a Sharps first, though. Sharps, I'd love to have a Sharps in 50-70.
I need to get something in 50-70.
AR American said, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, what was his deal of the 2x4? And that kind of ties to our channels because he had somebody, I believe, tried to kidnap his grandkid the other day. And he beat him in the head with a 2x4 and held him on the floor with a 44 Magnum till the police arrived.
Nice.
Look it up. He had his board. So yeah.
Man, you talk about unlucky if you realize that you did something like that and you realize that's the guy who actually made a living beating the crap out of people with a 2x4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, now we're going. Plowboy said Rowdy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rowdy Piper. Something about the Scotch-Irish heritage of me gets all fired up, and then I found out he was Canadian the whole time.
Yeah.
Just when they think they know the answers, I change the questions. All right. Anyway, away from that wrestling now, because people are thinking Iron Sheik, Andre the Giant, Junkyard Dog.
I just remember Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys got to watch the South Park episode with him. Ties into the modern stupidness, but yeah, we're not going to go into politics, but it's funny. Watch it.
So anyway, back to what we were talking about originally, black powder. So, man, Jake, you've been buying so many guns here lately, I can't keep up. You were shooting a Snider, which you had, and then you bought the 68 trapdoor.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, when you were shooting smokeless powder, it's kind of funny. You slowed that bullet down, didn't you? With the smokeless.
Yeah, considerably.
And it
was
just shooting lights out for you.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why mine. I can make those shots, but my powder's obviously slower than some of the faster stuff you're making. So I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if it's got to be that speed. You think?
Yeah, it's very possible.
What is it? 1,300 feet per second?
With 3F, it's 13. With 1F, it's just barely 12, 1192 or something like that.
And what were those? Did you chronograph those smokeless loads?
Yeah, I did some other ones. I'll have a video out on it Friday. I was using Trail Boss, and I had a bunch of people, saying, well, the Trail Boss, they don't make it anymore, and I can't get it. So, and I thought, well, okay, I'll do some other ones. And so I did some with Unique and some 5744. But the Trail Boss loads move a whopping, out of that 32-inch barreled 68, moves a whopping 832 feet per second.
And that's where you got your accuracy.
And it is like laser beam accurate, man.
Well, I know
the consistency was incredible. The consistency was incredible.
Dude,
yeah, it had a spread of like 20 or something. It was really good.
Sorry, Garrett. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's fine. I was just going to say, Duke, how did they measure FPS in the 1880s? Because I have 1880 accounts where they're recording feet per second.
So it was not recorded. It was a calculation. It was a mathematical calculation that it was estimated that a bullet, you calculated it up, and you could still do it that way today, but we've got these things called chronographs that do that calculation for us. But you calculate up the powder charge, the bullet, the weight of the bullet, the burn rate of the powder, and all that, and then they come out, and it was a rough estimate. But yeah, back in the day, that's really how they were calculating it, because there's no other way to measure it.
Yeah.
Well,
Other than
how
early
long?
1900s. Well, I guess you could do it for how long it takes it to get from when you fire it to when it hits the target. But even that's going to be hard to calculate.
Well, I found it interesting because before about 1879, before the Sandy Hook trials, all the records I see we're just trying to see how many 1-inch boards we can penetrate. And then after the Sandy Hook trials, all of a sudden there's FPS in the reports. So I didn't know what, and I haven't tracked down.
There was also that thing of calculating how long it took the bullet to get to the target at a certain distance, but really it's all just kind of mathematical calculation.
Yeah. Shachul said they had a weighted system to measure muzzle velocity. That would make sense. I need to find out more on that because it's not in the trapdoor books, obviously. I was
just reading up on that. On the heck book was it? It was one of the ones we have out at the port. Because they had the calculation in there, and I thought, holy Moses, somebody was really good at math back then, because I don't even think I could figure out how to type that into a calculator.
Yeah. Well, James Cox had a question. He said, is there a certain trapdoor to stay away from, or is there a particular one to look for? Well, that's a tough question. Like for safety-wise, like to stay away from? Not really. The 66, it depends on what you want to use it for. If you want to shoot 4 full bore loads all day long, maybe not a 66 because they just have the trapdoor screwed down to the top of the barrel.
Stay away from Geronimo 1870 carbines.
Well, there's only 300 of those in existence to start with, so I doubt you're just going to run into one of those. And it wasn't a Geronimo. Oh, now you're going to get me started on this. Here we go.
Here we go.
That 1870 was a 68. I'm sorry, but okay. But anyway, that's another panel, another story for another day. The only one I could say you might watch out for is the 1873 for the first. They put them out in 74, so 74, 75, first 3 years of production. The model 1873 had a lot narrower receiver, and it did not have big gas ports as the later ones. And which narrow receiver means narrower latch, narrower hinge pin. And it did all right until they moved up to the 500 grain bullet, at which point in 1879, 80, and 81, they brought all of them back into the factory, marked them star, that were still in existence from those first 3 years, marked them star, throw the old receivers out on the civilian market as basically they call it scrap, but they just sold the old receivers, and they put the big receivers on them, and they'll have the serial number, even though the rest of the gun should be an early 1874, 5, or 6. It'll have the serial number of an 1880, 81 gun and a star behind the serial number. Those are fine. If you find one of the originals with the thin, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I would definitely stick with the 405 grain loads, because if you have a case head separation or something happens, they found that high arch in there, they moved the arch down in the later ones, high arch, not enough gas ports could blow the door open. And it's very rare to find one in their collector's pieces today, to find an original military one. Really easy to find one that was the receiver was put out on the market, and then Bannerman, Schuler, Hartley, and Graham, all those guys got their own barrel stocks and built them. And so you have to be kind of careful with the original small receiver 4570s. But anyway, sorry, enough of that. Let's see. Going on down through here. A Negro.
Oh God.
He got me, didn't he?
Yeah, he got you.
That happens every now and then.
He got you.
Oh
He got
boy.
me. He got me. What's a good company that makes a good 1873 revolvers? Snapper.
Uberti, but buy the Cimarron version.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what? The one I actually like the most right at the moment, the one that I love, would be the Cimarron Pieta-made old model Army. The old model with the screw and all that stuff. It's just more authentic to the real gun, and it has a 4-click hammer.
Yep.
And see, the Cimarron Model P, if you get the old model, which is
I think the old one is
the
Pieta,
old
and the
frame.
new
They call
model
it the
is-
old frame.
yeah.
It and the Pieta are identical, because Pieta still has the Ruger style handspring, the pin and coil spring
Yeah.
for the handspring. So Pieta does that. But otherwise, Pieta does actually have a roll stamped knurling on the hammer, whereas Uberti is still laser engraved. and I
Laser
hate it.
edge. Yeah.
But function wise, they're almost identical.
Yeah, they're almost identical.
All right. Shot Schultz said it was called a ballistic pendulum, published in Robbins' New Principles of Gunnery in 1742. I believe Ethan has that book. I'm going to have to go look that up. Okay, here's a good question, guys. 30-30 black powder with paper patch bullet. How far? I don't know what he means, but I assume he means how far will it go? How far kill? Didn't you do black powder 30-30, Jake?
Yeah, I did. And being that I used a Marlin with micro groove rifling, it just didn't do well with any lead round at all, which it doesn't do well with any lead projectile, even with smokeless. It does great with anything jacketed between 150 and 170. It works well, but the micro groove, and I've heard folks that have micro groove rifling that say, oh, well, mine works well. Well, mine doesn't. So it's really not, in my opinion, a very fair test of the black powder 30-30. But I think I was shooting at 125 yards or something and hitting that target when I was using the jacketed round. You know, in my opinion, it's probably as good as a 30-30 would be with a smokeless round, you know, if you have a firearm that'll handle whatever projectile it is, unlike the Marlin that I have.
That brings me up to a good question. I never even thought about if I get a Marlin 1895 and 4570, could I shoot lead through it? I wonder if that.
They don't. I don't think the 95s are not micro grooved as far as I know.
Huh? Because if I couldn't shoot lead through it, that'd be a no go. Because that's all
Right.
I'll let you.
Yeah, I have a Marlin 95 and 4570. I'm pretty sure it's standard rifling.
Oh yeah, what's your barrel length?
It's 18, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
It's,
I was thinking that'd be a
I
good
don't
length for a truck gun.
I don't shoot it very often. It's I have an 1886 Browning in 4570, and when I want to shoot 4570, that's what I shoot.
Yeah, I thought about that, but then I thought about, do I want to pack that nice gun around in the pickup?
Sure.
Or
yeah.
should I just get a Rossi Rio Grande in 4570? You know,
Yeah, there you go.
drag it through the mud and the blood, you know. Couple questions here. D said, what are the different grades of trapdoors and prices you should? There's a lot of different grades. I don't go through all the graded stuff because I'm not buying a mint one. If you get a good shooter, you know, they're going up. They're going up all the time. They're going to be like M1 grands before you know it. Looking at, used to be able to get one for $600-700, which is a pretty good deal. You can still get some of the 50-70s for that. A good shootable 73 or 84 is going to run you about $1,000 now, and they're just getting more and more and more expensive all the time. And it doesn't help that some channels are putting out bad information on them to make them look more expensive. I'm going to kind of get through here. Plowboys Ghost said, my 2016 1895 CBA is Ballard rifled. Never shot anything but cast there. Yeah, there you go, Plowboy. You're the one who kind of inspired me on this kick, because I've never actually, out of all the 45-70s I've owned a lot of single shots. I've never actually owned a lever action 45-70. I figured I needed to write that after I watched Plowboy's video. And that's about Working Out Back said, Garrett, you just need a bigger truck instead of a shorter rifle.
Needs a truck with a working transmission.
A truck with a working transmission right now, you're right. Yeah, it works. It just doesn't go into high gear at the moment.
Oh, it's mostly working.
Yeah. You know, I used to think Dodge transmissions were the only ones that give you trouble. Okay.
I could say something right now, but I don't want to get everybody in their own channel.
Go ahead, Duke, so long as it's not that unclean.
Oh, no, it's bad. It's really bad.
No. Okay,
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, okay. So, anyway, kind of winding down. We got a few more minutes here. All right, Jake. Favorite movie with black powder firearms? Throw a curveball at you here.
Favorite movie with black powder firearms?
Guys, I'm going to have to go. My phone's overheating.
Okay, we'll see you.
All right,
See you,
bye,
dude.
dude.
Cartridge firearms or muzzleloader cap and ball firearms?
Okay, cartridge.
310 to Yuma.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tombstone. 310 to Yuma's good. It has a very good variety.
It is. Especially that
I don't know
revolving.
if a sniper should be using Colt revolving rifle.
I doubt it. I doubt that too, but it's still interesting.
It's still my favorite gun of the show, other than the Hand of God. I love that rifle. I want one of those so bad. So bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because, let's see, what does Ben Wade carry? I can't. Oh,
Ben Wade carries the Hand of God.
What is Christian Bale carry?
He carries a Spencer, yeah.
He's got a Spencer and like he's got a converted 51 Navy or 60 Army,
an open top.
Yeah.
So you got your open top guy, you got your single action Army guy, you got your Schofield Smith & Wesson guy.
Like
Charlie
everything's in that movie.
You got a sniper with a Colt revolving rifle for some reason, which
I approve.
Why not?
I approve.
As long as you got a rest and you don't have to put your hand out there. Yeah, that's a good one. There's the sawed-off shotgun guy. It's actually using brass cartridges.
Yep.
And there's even a Gatling gun, or in the back of the
Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Isn't there always a Gatling gun?
There's always a Gatling gun.
All right. Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. I'll give you that. That's good for firearms.
Yeah, they did a good job in that movie for firearms. They covered a lot.
It's kind of like a Russell Crowe thing, his history movies, even if they're not 100% accurate. It's like Master Commander, Gladiator, it's always like, I don't know. He does a good job with selling historic characters, in my opinion. But,
I agree.
Yeah, Hardy said it was an 1860 conversion. All right, Snapper. What's your favorite black powder movie?
Oh, boy. Still to this day, I'd have to say it is... I'm having a brain fart of the name, and that's wrong. Josie Wells. Still to this day, I love Josie Wells. You could never go wrong with Josie Wells.
I was going to say
Even though
Josie
I don't-
Wales, but that's why I asked, like, are we talking cartridge or are we talking cap and
Yeah.
ball?
No, cap and ball at that time. Cartridge guns? Man. Jake took like one of the best. I'm trying to think. Hostiles did a good job, but I just hate the movie. It's a good movie, but it's just dumb.
Should have took the train.
Take the train.
Man, I would have to probably go with Tombstone just because I can't really think of anything else right off the bat at this second. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. There you go.
Oh,
That's
wow.
good.
Okay.
Seeing as
That thinking about it, I just popped up. I was like, you know what? I love that movie too.
That's one of my old man's favorite movies.
and Duke pointed out to me the other day that Jimmy Stewart has a 62 pocket Navy or pocket police in that movie, and I never even noticed.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a pocket revolver.
The Shootist is also one of my favorite as well, just because of those single action armies, all engraved and pretty.
Oh, I have heard what company made those. I think they were called what? I can't.
I thought those were like Great Western 2s or something.
No, they're not
Great
Great
Western
Western.
Arms.
They're not that. They were somebody back in the day that was an American company, I think, that made them. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But it was like Western Arms or something. It was kind of like that, but.
American Western Arms. Or Great
Yeah.
Western Arms?
I thought it was like Great Western Arms.
Yeah, Great
something
Western
like
Arms.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Plowboys Ghost said that IMFDB has it as a 51 Navy conversion. Okay, cool. I think he's talking about Ben Wade and what is his name in the movie? I can't think of his name in the movie.
Who? Christian Bale?
Christian Bale's.
He has a 51 Navy conversion, Christian Bell, I thought, because I was watching it
Okay.
the other day with my son, and he literally went to go grab the 51 Navy because he saw the movie.
Because Van Heflin played him in the original one when Glenn Ford was Ben Wade. I cannot think of his name, though.
Every time I watch a good Western movie, you got to have a good Western gun with you from the movie.
Yeah, by land and sea. Oh, there it is. He said that it was USFA made John Wayne's pistols for the shootist.
Oh.
That's what I knew. Something like that.
Did they? I didn't know USFA. Yeah, I thought that was a newer company that went out of business like in the early 2000s. Like they started in the late 90s and
I think
very long.
he's right. I think he's right. I'll have to look it up, but I think he's right. Oh, there we go. Big Jake. Yep, by land and sea says Big Jake. Good movie for firearms. It's only
Is that the one where he
1910.
has the Bergman 1910 or 1909
It's
or whatever pistol?
Yeah, it's not Bergman model of 1910, but it's only 1909. We don't stock in the company, father. Oh, I love that because every time Plowboy makes a movie or a video about single action armies, everybody are carrying a single action army for defense, and everybody jumps on him. You need a magazine and semi-auto. I always like to pull that quote out. John Wayne said in that one. Maybe you can get that fancy pistol out of that fancy holster before some old man with the old-fashioned 6-shooter blows a hole in you. I would love that. Oh, that's a good. He has a spring in the holster, father. Father. Okay, well, we're getting down there. I have to say I like Quigley. I probably always will.
That's a good one.
I don't know. I have a thing for single shot rifles, so. And Colts. So
I always hate that they made the Colt guy into the bad guy. He should have been the good guy.
Oh, of course.
But he used that Colt. He never said he didn't know how to use it. He just said he didn't have use for one snapper.
Yeah, I know. And then so me and Quigley, we kind of separated after that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, good one, Soylent Green. Crazy mix of guns in the Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
1911s and 97s. Yeah, sign me up. 1903 Springfields, but their 1911s were actually star 9mm, but they look like 1911s. So
the Billy the Kid movie was good too. Which one is the what are they called? The newer ones.
Kid?
No, not that one, dude. The
Young Guns.
Yeah, Young Guns. Yeah, because they had the 77 in that. That was pretty cool.
There's not hardly a single correct gun in that, but have you ever watched?
Well, apparently he supposedly had a 77 in real life, and he carried a 77 in the movie.
Watch the opening sequence, where I guess it's possible, But all the guys have swing out cylinder double actions when they're doing the fast shooting in the opening sequence.
Do they? I could have swore they were like single action
They
armies.
look right. No, they look right later on, but when they're actually shooting, they go to double action, like swing out, which is okay because in Shane, if you watch closely in the last gunfight, whenever he's doing the fast gunfighting, he switches from his single action army to a 1917 Smith & Wesson that's nickel plated, just like the other one. But you got to slow it down to see it because he wasn't doing that fast shooting with a single action.
Like during a lot of the movie, I noticed that he's carrying a 77, the Billy the Kid guy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think they got Billy's guns correct, and everybody else didn't matter because probably most people weren't noticing him.
Yep. Well, guys, I think we're gonna shut this down because I got to go back to work. Any final thoughts, Snapper?
No. It's kind of messed up. Whoever did that word puzzle for there, Garrett. That was kind of messed up, guys. Don't do that. We have
my hats off to him. I wish I'd thought of it first.
The only thing I see is we already have enough problems with just the content we make, and then having stuff like that, it just could cause a lot of issues. So if you really care about the channel, try not to do that stuff. Now, if you want to do it about something that's kind of appropriate but funny.
Yeah, we don't want to get thrown off.
It was funny, but it's kind of messed up because that kind of stuff can go really stupid these days.
Yeah. What do you got coming out, Snapper? Anything?
Not really, because I got to go on the road.
Yeah.
On the road again.
Make some of those vlog van life videos.
Yeah.
How about you, Jake? What do you got coming out? If you don't mind saying.
I got some more 50/70 stuff coming out, and then we're going to be doing some 73 Winchester stuff in 4440.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I don't know what I have coming out. It may be a double barrel flintlock pistol if my copyright dispute goes through, or it may be an open top 70 or an open top 1872 open top or a Rossi. I don't know yet.
Hey.
Tune in Sunday morning at 7:30. You'll see something. I don't know what it'll be yet, but it'll be something. Anyway, all right. Well, we want to thank Jake for coming on, and it's always a lot of fun. Very relaxed. I think it's because we all know each other pretty good at this point. And so, yeah, it was a good conversation. See y'all later. Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.